Going to talk about too much stuff today. AMSAT Operations, specifically our assets, and then we'll talk a little bit about some new satellites that were launched this past year, and then we'll also talk about some international projects. Basically, the three assets that AMSAT-NA has right now are AO7, 35 years old. It was launched a month after I was born, still working. AO16, not currently operational, but we still check up on it. And AO51, which everybody has probably heard and uses. We've got two new spacecraft in orbit this year that are real popular, not counting CubeSats and things. These are large two-way packages on these, SO67 and HO68. And then we'll talk about KiwiSat, FunCube, Phase 3, and a couple of other ones. So AO7 still running, as everybody probably knows by now, just on the solar panels. She's in continuous illumination, so pretty much works all the time now. There for a while, when she went into eclipse, transponders would shut off and it would come back up in sort of a random mode. It was kind of hard to predict. I ran a simulation before I left, and we're in continuous illumination until at least 2015. So what that means is a 24-hour timer is working that switches between 2 meters up, 10 meters down, or 70 centimeters up, 2 meters down. So every 24 hours she switches modes, pretty close to exact. A good way to figure out what mode it's in is to use David Carr's website, oscar.dcar.org, and you can go and you see the, use my laser pointer here, you can see the entries for AO7 Mode A or AO7 Mode B. There's not as many users on Mode A, but you can see it's pretty much every 24 hours. It looks like it's changing here about 3/4 of the way through the day UTC time. So we do retain command capability over AO7. We don't do it. There's no reason to yet. So we're going to let her run as long as she wants to run. AO7, this is why everybody likes AO7 in a 1,450 kilometer orbit. It's the highest thing we've got going right now. So it's real easy to get into Europe from most of the United States. There's even a station in Washington that Washington State that routinely works into Northern Europe. So if you're interested in working DX on satellite right now, AO7 is the first place you want to be. AO16 launched in the early 90s as one of the original microsats, is mostly inoperational due to a couple of different failures. Some we know exactly what happened and some we don't. There for a while we were able to use sort of a back door that was put in during construction to test some things as a voice repeater instead of as a PACSat. Unfortunately, the orbit has shifted a little bit, and the problem is temperature related, so it's not operational right now. We can turn it on, it'll stay on for a minute or two and shut off. If you're around on field day, take a listen for it. You don't know, we might try to turn it on then. Last year I didn't announce that and turned it on, and 3 people were there already. So we still occasionally fire it up to see what's going on with it. Back in, I think it was February, Mark Hammond and I tested the S-band transmitter. Still comes on, still works, shuts off in a minute or two, so there's not a whole lot we can do with it at this point. AO51, 6 years old this summer, launched on June 29, 2004. It's an evolved microsat, still uses the stack tray design. A lot of the same parts inside are same type of parts. Digital and analog FM downlinks on UHF and 2.4 gig, and uplinks on 2 meters and 1268. Plus we have an all-mode receiver in there via the Space Quest RX, SQRX, and we can use that with the 2-meter whip with some degraded performance. So we have in the past tried some other bands like 10 meters up. Doesn't work, but I wanted to include it in there because if I didn't, somebody would call me on it. AO51 has had some real operational challenges over the past year. It's sort of hard to see, but the graph over here begins beginning of July 2009. We've had a long period of continuous illumination, which is really nice because we can turn the wick up and make the downlink very strong. We run 2 watts, sometimes a little bit more on the downlink on one channel, one transmitter. The bad part of that is it's really put the batteries through a lot of heat for a long time. And part of what we were trying to do was run as much power as we could, to bring that heat down. And it worked to some degree, but here, the beginning of May, we re-entered an eclipse cycle, and then we'll have another 4 months of eclipse-free orbits, and then we start the steady climb up here to 35 minutes of eclipse per orbit. We're going to have to change the way we run AO51, and luckily we have a 2 or 3 month window here to learn how to do this and get the software rewritten before we get into this over here. So AO51 is still making almost as much power as it was when it was launched, about 14 watts in full sun averaged, but the batteries are right now getting up to almost 40 C depending on what we're doing. We're trying to keep them under about 35 by running the transmitters very hard, but we can't do that as well when we get into these eclipses. So we've had to adapt. Like I mentioned, we've increased the downlink power. We've been running multiple transmitters. Back at the beginning of this cycle, we were able to run the UHF and the S-band transmitters together. We've run VS and U telemetry also. We've implemented a new PL mode when we went back after we started back into the eclipses. This is something that Jim White wrote for us back a year or 2 ago. We hadn't had an occasion to use it because we were trying to ditch as much energy as we could. But now that we need to conserve energy during eclipses, and all the eclipses right now are over the extreme southern hemisphere, and there's nobody down there to use it pretty much. This new PL mode, instead of in the past where when it heard a valid tone, it opened turned the transmitter on and gated the audio. Well, if you had 2 stations transmitting at the same time and neither one was strong enough to get over the other one, you didn't hear anything, and that just encouraged more people to transmit. So that was a bad thing. The new mode, here's a PL and says, okay, I'm going to turn the transmitter on, but I'm going to go unsquelched for N number of minutes. And right now that's set at 2 minutes. And it's been working out pretty well. We've got some new power management software that I'll show you in the next couple of slides how it works. And we've also been using the scheduling function more out of necessity, where the satellite changes modes on its own after a schedule is uploaded to it. So this was a quick map. This is the second day that we ran the new PL system, and this is really rough, and I'd probably get a D on this if I turned it in for something. But this is roughly the area where our users are. This is Florida, Brazil, Australia, Japan, Europe and Asia, and South Africa. This is made from looking at when the valid PLs were received. I'm not sure what this is down here, but somebody's kerchunking it every once in a while out in the middle of the ocean, so who knows what that is. But the usage averages about 45%, so we're saving a lot of power this way. Here's the power management software. This is a graph of the transmitter current, the current required by all the transmitters. This is from 0 to 1.2 amps. This is, you see the dips here. When the voltage, the bus voltage reaches a certain point, the software will shut the transmitter down to a lower level that I pick. And here, this is actually an eclipse. So the voltage never got up high enough to run the higher power. So if you see the power going up and down on AO51, this is what's causing it, the power management software. And it's done so we don't pull the batteries down too low. It's all in order to protect the satellite, protect the batteries. For the last week, we've been running VS, 2 meters up, 2.4 gig down. VS, we cannot, or the S-band transmitter, we cannot change the power output. It's fixed. And it runs about 730 milliamps. Unfortunately, that is too much to get through Eclipse. So what we've had to do, and here the yellow is the battery voltage, and the green is the transmitter current. And here you see where I've turned on the digital downlink to get some telemetry, then turned it back off. When the satellite enters into Eclipse and the voltage drops, when it gets to a set point, this file, it was at 7.4, it's now at 7.6, it shuts the S transmitter off. And then we have a command schedule that we upload that 5 minutes after coming back into sunlight, after the batteries recover some, we turn the S transmitter back on. Long story short, what this requires is that we upload a file every morning at 5 a.m. with the 16 transmitter enables during the day, because we can only hold 18 in memory. So it's VS has been a challenge to keep running, and Mark Hammond, N8MH, is doing it right now, and he's been a lifesaver. We did an experiment back at the end of 2009, beginning of this year. Most of our satellites are magnetically stabilized. They have a big bar magnet in them, and I'll show you on the next screen how that works. AO51 has that, but it's reversible. It's got some electronics here that are more or less like a camera flash power system, and you can flash that rod and reverse the polarity in it, which would switch the satellite, the top and the bottom, flip it upside down basically. It had never been tested, so we got to the point where we were comfortable enough that we could try to see if this worked. This is a quick GIF that Mark Spencer put together as a PowerPoint, and I animated, and this shows basically how the passive magnetic stabilization works. So the satellite ends up doing a somersault at the equator, because that's where the magnetic equator, that's where the other pole takes over. So that's what AO51's doing, and by reversing the magnet, we put the receive antenna down and the transmitter antennas up over the northern hemisphere, and the opposite over the southern hemisphere. Well, anybody that was a child in the 70s remembers these guys. When we fired this thing off, all that energy from the spin had to go somewhere, and it went into a huge wobble. This is a graph of the top and bottom currents from the solar panels, and you see they nice and slow alternate as the satellite kind of processes just a little bit. Here's where Drew fired the thing off and messed everything up, and you can see it just it was very chaotic for several weeks. The guys in the southern hemisphere loved it because they could finally hear the satellite really well. They've been at a disadvantage since it was launched. The antennas are basically pointed away from them. Well, it took about 4 weeks for it to calm down, and we had a couple of panic attacks during that 4 weeks. Different things happened, including reloading the satellite. So as soon as things calmed down a little bit and we got all the data we wanted, we flipped it back on January 9th. And just as a quick aside, my son was born on the 7th, so talk about a stressful week. Okay, enough with the tech stuff. De-expeditions. What do you mean, de-expeditions on a LEO? Are you nuts? Well, we've had several of them this year, and we've tried to support them all by scheduling modes and the modes they wanted, and not running VS when they wanted it in VU and things like that. Jim, ND9M, went to, I think it was 87 or 88 grids out in the Midwest and South Central U.S., out in West Texas and Arizona and places like that. Grids that you don't ever hear on the air. He made a lot of guys really happy. I mean, if you followed him around, you almost got your VUCC just off one station. So he did a really great job with that. Adrian, you in the house, Adrian? Adrian back here, AA5 UK, operated, last year it was the Caymans, and this year he went to Hawaii. And he didn't just go to Hawaii with an HT and an arrow. He took a full satellite transponder station. Made a lot of guys happy for that 50th state that they couldn't work on FM, but they could on AO7. So thank you, Adrian. You got some pictures on the next slide here. Reed is working with a government agency up in Greenland, and he's been out with his HT and arrow, mainly on the new Chinese satellite. Oh. Well, okay, we'll shift into high here. He's made a lot of guys happy because I haven't heard Greenland on in 10 years. So, and then K4T, who I'm not going to get into his presentation, but he's going to, Mike's going to give us a lot of stuff on that later. So here's some quick pictures. Diamond Head, Adrian, in Hawaii. This is Jim. This is in the Persian Gulf. He's on a ship most of the time, and this is in DL88. We also had the Apollo 11 event. Anybody here hear Apollo 11 event last July? If you didn't get your card, come see me. I've got some with me. We basically relayed a special message, including a slow scan image via AO51 and a bunch of volunteer uplink stations on L-band. I don't have the file on here, so we can't hear it, but this is the image that was sent. Here's a couple of different people that copied it and sent them in. And there's a card. Doug, KD8CAO, put the card together. Thank you, Doug. It's a great card. It was really got a lot of good comments about it. We've supported Kids Day, Jamboree on the air, and got clipped. College Satellite Nights. Jay, I see you're in the office, in the audience. Jay's been putting together this College Satellite Nights, getting all the college stations on the air on satellite. And we've dedicated complete repeaters and schedule blocks to those as often as we can. New satellites. Sumbadilisat SO67, launched on a Soyuz. It's a South African satellite, not an amateur radio satellite per se. It's a university large satellite. It's an imaging satellite, but some of the guys down in South Africa put together a package that used their backup command radios for a repeater. Pretty innovative. It's low, but it's very strong. Operation is scheduled, but it's suspended right at the moment. It should come back any moment, any day. It did require a PL tone, does not now, will not now. It'll be run in 15-minute blocks with open access. I don't know if that's going to get rid of the squelch tail or not. It was a little problematic working around the squelch tail, but I think it'll be good when it comes back. Here's some quick pictures of it. Here's getting it ready for launch. These are some of the images it's taken. This is Namibia, sand dunes. This is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. You can see the shadow, tallest building in the world. This is a picture taken with a horizon sensor with the moon and a glare from the sun. And this is Cape Town, South Africa. So they've done a really nice job with that satellite. And this is the footprint. It's not real high, but very strong, and easily work the whole U.S. on it. China launched Xi Wang 1, also known XW1, CAS1, Hope Oscar 68, HO 68, satellite of many names. But it was launched on December 15th. China's first amateur radio satellite. One of the guys that worked on it told me they've been working on it for 10 years. It's amazing dedication. It's about a 60-kilogram satellite. It has a 1200 baud store and forward BBS, an FM repeater, and an analog transponder. It's currently in scheduled operation. It's not on every orbit. The beacon is, but the transponders aren't. And it is in I think I made a mistake here. I think it's only a 1,000-kilometer orbit. Here's a picture of it being mated to the launch adapter. This is kind of a pre-launch image of it, or graphical representation. You see it's got some S-band patches on here, so there's some other things going on that satellite also, but it's primarily amateur radio related. And there, I was right, 1200. This is, hey, I can even work Europe from Florida on this one. So that makes 3, FO29 included, that you can work some real DX on. This is a screen grab of the first transponder pass. Bunch of stations in here, your ever-present DITR. You see some out-of-band illegal FM operation here, taxi cab or something on 2 meters. Okay, I'm going to have to blast through these. If you have any questions about these international projects, I'm going to have to go really fast through these. I apologize. Phase 3E, as Barry mentioned, ITAR's effectively cut us out of the picture on working on it. It's a mostly complete satellite, and Peter and Hartmut and the rest of the DL guys are working hard to find a launch for it. They're trying to bundle it with a Phase 5 Mars or Moon mission and sell it to the German government and get us both up at the same time. Last price they got from Ariane was 3 million euros, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. And we haven't gotten much information from DL recently. They've been really busy putting together these proposals to their government. KiwiSat is a LEO microsat design. It's the AMSAT New Zealand guys are working on. Linear transponder, FM and data, 70 centimeters and L-band up, 2 meters down. It's pretty much finished except for the IHU and the operating system. Same issues. They were looking to us to help, and right now ITAR's got it tied up where we can't afford to do that, and they understand. So they're looking to sign a launch contract in 2010. Here's their website, kiwisat.org.nz. You can donate via PayPal on their website. This project's very close to completion. There's an image of it. You can see the L-band antennas, UHF whip, and 2 meter tape antennas, and then there's another 70 centimeter beacon antenna here, and a camera. ESA and AMSAT UK are working on ESEO. This is a follow-up to SETI Express, which was launched in 2005. They're looking at a 2012 to 2013 launch, probably on a Vega. AMSAT UK is providing a set of backup communications gear that includes a US FM repeater at 3 to 5 watts. AO51 runs 1.7 watts. This thing will be a screamer. It also is capable of 38.4 data, and that's the backup part of the plan. The UV linear transponder, that's a regular old mode B, 3 watts, and it'll have a CW or BPSK beacon. It's also have a C-band beacon on it. AMSAT Indonesia is putting together a satellite with their National Space Agency. UV FM repeater at 5 watts and a 2 meter digipeater. It's going to a low and low inclination orbit, so pretty much guys in the southern U.S. will be the only U.S. stations to hear it. I think about 30-35 degrees north, past that you won't hear it. But it's due for launch pretty soon with this Mega Trophique satellite. AMSAT UK is also working on FunCube, and I'm going to have to blast through these or Alan's going to hook me and pull me off stage here. This is a 1U CubeSat. Half educational, half UV transponder, linear transponder. They're using a lot of off-the-shelf components, building a couple of boards on their own, working quite a bit with ISIS, the same guys that did the Delphi C3 satellite and then spun off to their own company. So they're got a large educational outreach part of this, and typical STEM stuff. This thing's moving on its own. So they want to be able to have a easy telemetry system for students to use. Yes, it's a 2 meter downlink, and she's holding a 70 centimeter arrow. So they're moving right along. They're looking at signing a launch agreement soon, and I think they're actually looking at the end of 2011 for a launch right now. And here's ISIS. It's been helping them with a lot of hardware. Here's a meeting. Graham told me he cropped out all the beer and pizza. So I think that's right here in between Howard and Jim. And they're doing a lot of outreach with it, trying to get the word out about it. And the nice thing about CubeSats is they'll go on anything you can fit a peapod on. So there's the web address if you want to take a look at what they're doing. And if you don't hear me on the satellites much, or it takes me a couple of days to get back to you, this guy's why. So thanks